Hello and welcome to episode number 9 of this Bootstrapped Life. This is a series where I share the ups and downs of starting a bootstrapped company, particularly right now here in SF. And so I usually divide this into the business side and the personal side. So let's go ahead and jump into the business stuff. This week we actually launched our language proficiency quiz, Lang Tester, at langtester.com right now for Mandarin and Spanish first. We had this app sitting around for a little while. We just never quite finished a couple things with it. So now we actually went ahead and launched it. So yeah, check it out if you're learning either one of those two languages. It's a free, like 5-minute quiz or so. Link in the description. We'll be adding more languages and features to it over time. Right now, it's just a simple free thing. For us, this was more just about scratching an itch we had. And I wanted to also start to get a sense of what other things could be useful. And I just wanted to launch something that worked in this kind of format. And it's fortunately inexpensive enough to just have online for free for now, just to get information. So anyways, it's there now. It's launched, which is cool. And overall, I expect we're starting to understand a lot of the abstractions required for building these kinds of apps that depend on LLMs, these large language models. So I can already see our velocity picking up because we've already started testing another tool internally. And so there'll be more to share around that later this month. But anyways, it's exciting that we're starting to launch more of these things. So look forward to that. Otherwise, we are starting to host things here actually in SF. So if you don't know, I rent space here in SF in Hayes Valley. I'm here most days of the week, and I try to be a fixture of the space and try to just be someone who welcomes, folks, and just overall is just a positive energy in the space. And so I've really started to lean more into that role recently, I would say. We host a weekly coffee and co-working session on Fridays. And initially I didn't even know what to think about it, I guess, because for me, this has all been kind of new. I've only been a remote worker until basically I moved to SF. So I'm still learning a lot about like in-office culture things and also how you create community. But now that we've been doing it for about, I think almost 2 months now, I'm starting to really enjoy it. And so actually I'm also beginning to host other things too. For example, next week I'm going to be hosting this Vision OS hackathon in SF as part of this global hackathon called Vision Hack. And I'm excited because this is going to be my first event that I host myself. And it's going to provide some really interesting information around just how to host a hackathon and whether I want to host more of them in the future. I think this is a great space out here in SF to host these kinds of events, whether it's a networking event or whether it's like a hackathon. We have monitors, it's spacious, it's lofty, it's kind of vibrant, it has like a garage feel to it. I mean, there is kind of like a giant garage door towards the kitchen area back there. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting experiment. Anyways, this is all to say that I am leaning into some of the community aspect of things. And I think they have a good balance in this working space where Monday to Thursday, we generally don't have events or like any major events in the space that are, I guess, particularly disruptive. But on Fridays, we host this like coffee and co-working thing, which people generally still like come to co-work and to like get things done. And so you can find a corner in this office where you can, plug in your headphones and just get to work, which is cool. And I think people respect that generally. It's more of like, if you do want to socialize and network a little bit, you can go to the kitchen area and people will be chit-chatting. Otherwise, moving on, I think I'll just touch on this one because this one's kind of fun. Founder mode. This was an interesting essay by Paul Graham that brought about a bunch of conversation on tech Twitter and SF. Otherwise, okay, my bubble right now. And I think, there's some merit to it. It describes, what I perceive as a managerial style that goes against conventional wisdom around, hire smart people, trust them, let them do their thing, and just like kind of keep, you can keep your distance. But I think also it might be getting misconstrued as like a micromanagement style. I think it's not quite that. I think the way at least I've interpreted it, because it is still extremely vague actually, is just being someone who cares about details and is willing to like dig deep into what's going on at whatever company. So I think the jury's still out, or verdict's still out on like the effectiveness of this and what this actually looks like in practice. Because I think people have posted some interesting comparisons. Because this came about because of a talk that the Airbnb founder Brian Chesky, I believe is his name, gave, and it, people compared Airbnb's stock to like Marriott stock, and highlight like this disparity in values, and so just kind of highlighting how this so-called founder mode, like, does it really have these great results? Are we do we even know what we're talking about? Because so far, again, it still has no real shape. But again, at least the way I've interpreted it so far is just being someone who cares about details and is willing to dig deep. And I think there's something to be said about that. I'm someone who appreciates that, and even right now, I enjoy coding, and I think I'll never quite let that go. And I think we see a lot of companies like even like Shopify. The CEO still will I think do a little bit of coding and post about it on Twitter, that kind of thing. I think it's cool, and I respect that. I have no other thoughts really on the matter, so I'm gonna refrain. Otherwise, on the personal side of things, my sleep is trending upward, which is great. I feel a little bit more coherent than average for this series right now, and for this episode. I'm at 7.5 hours over the last week, compared to an average of like 7 hours the past month, compared to an average of like 6 hours in like June and July. So that's a positive trend. Otherwise, I've been on Blueprint for a few months now, and I've had people ask me about that. And if you don't know what that is, it's this set of supplements, look kind of like this kind of packaging from this guy Brian Johnson, who has this whole brand now around longevity. He's pretty prolific on social media at this point. I think I've seen his ads on like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, and it's interesting stuff. I've decided to give it a go because I had a few people in real life that were on it first and recommended it, so I decided to give it a shot for that. But also, I had already been following Brian Johnson for the past, I think, maybe year or so potentially, and I think of the types of people that I've seen online that sell supplements and that kind of stuff, he seems the most relatable to me. He was in tech, and he seems a little more authentic in his mission here. I think most other influencers who are peddling something like AG1 or whatever, like, I never bought into AG1. It always seemed a little potentially questionable. Didn't dig super deep into it, but it just didn't seem as authentic in the way it came about. And especially when I heard about like the crazy commissions that influencers were getting from that, and there were just a bunch of negative reviews as well, people who really didn't experience any positive effects from it. So I just refrained. I'm also not someone who optimizes my health that much. Like, as much, despite what people might think, I'm just looking for like the simplest things that like just yield some solid results. Because I know that I don't get a whole lot of things right. Like, I mean, literally, I just mentioned my sleep is still not where it should be. So I'm not looking for things to like eke out the extra 1% of performance or I guess health. I'm just trying to find like the 20 to 50% that like yield like 80% of the results, or even close to that, honestly. And so what's cool with Blueprint is that if you subscribe to the full stack, it essentially provides 500 calories per day of nutrition. And so that's one meal a day that I don't have to think about anymore. It's like my breakfast. The main meal there is, or the meal that they include in that supplement stack is Nutty Putty, which is this like, it's kind of what it sounds like. It's this ground blueberries and nuts mixed into, I think it's this pea protein based powder, if I recall right now. I'm forgetting at the moment, but it's not like whey or whatever. It for me, at least, my body processes it much better than like whey and similar protein supplements. And so you have this bowl that you just down in the morning. I usually add a banana to it as well. And you mix it all with, I mix it with macadamia nut milk, and it's supposed to be good for inflammation too. Anyways, it's a good tasting breakfast. It digests very well for me, actually. And that's one meal a day I don't have to worry about anymore. So for me, it's not about optimization. It's just about like just removing extra thought from my diet. So, and now I'm 3 months in. I think I started this at the very beginning of June. And fortunately, I did my blood work right before I started this as well. So I'm planning to do my blood work again in the next month or two. And so I'll kind of have a little bit of a before and after picture of sorts. And again, it's not completely isolated. There are other variables at play here, so it's not a perfect picture. This is not scientific. This is going to be an N of 1, but it'll still be, I think, useful, at least for me personally. Anecdotally so far, and this is why I bring this all up, because I've had people ask me about my experience so far on Blueprint. Anecdotally, I've felt reduced inflammation. So I generally would have chronic back pain from the age of basically 18 and onward. I've just had chronic back pain, and last year it came up again in a big way from playing soccer. There were a few different incidents last year in soccer that caused insane back pain for weeks on end, or in some cases months actually as well. And even into this year, during my sabbatical before starting the company and all this stuff, I still had intermittent back pain. And since I want to say around July, so really like 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago now, and that was about like a month into the Blueprint stack, I have actually not felt any back pain whatsoever, which has been kind of wild to me actually. I have been pretty active here in SF, but I also was active before. I mean, I still ran before, I still walked a lot before every day. I still did a lot of healthy things before. So I think actually my diet has been probably the thing that has changed the most recently. And so at least for me, this has been a useful experiment, and I plan on continuing the Blueprint, even past I get my blood test results, unless I get bad results back, which I don't expect because I do feel better overall. So that's my experience so far on Blueprint. I think the full stack is a little expensive. It's about $300 a month. I think honestly the best thing from that whole stack that at least I enjoy is the longevity mix, the thing that I had just grabbed right now. This thing is pretty sweet. It has creatine, a little, which I wasn't using before actually, and I actually do go to the gym and I do lift weights. So that's something that I probably should have been doing before, but I wasn't. Anyways, simple thing. They added in this, so it's just one less thing to worry about. It includes L-theanine, I believe 200 milligrams of that, which is supposed to pair well with caffeine. Like 100 milligrams of caffeine, I think, is the right ratio with this. And yeah, it's supposed to give you, I believe, less of an intense, there's less of that caffeine high. It's more like a bodily experience, I think. I don't even know how to describe it. But anyways, I noticed it helps me, like when I consume a cup of coffee, it feels like a slow release almost, as opposed to like an instant fast release of caffeine, if that makes sense. And it includes a couple other things too, like ashwagandha, if I'm saying that correctly, which helps with like focus, anxiety, and mood and that sort of thing. Anyways, I'm not a health influencer. I'm not trying to be. I just wanted to share, as someone who's, decently sedentary from working at a desk and who has had chronic back pain and other things, I think that this stack is promising, and it just removes a little more thought from my diet from day to day, and it seems to be having positive results. That's the overall summary. If you want more details on that kind of thing, I have a newsletter that I write monthly. And so I write a little bit more about this stuff. And actually in the last issue from August, I did write a bit about Blueprint too. So I'll have a link in the description. Check it out if you're interested. Beyond that, I've been feeling good for a few different reasons. I've still been singing. I actually realized this week that I have like hundreds of recordings now dating back since 2018, which is kind of cool actually. Like it's sweet. It's great that I can like go back that long and listen to recordings of myself singing a bunch of different songs. It's nice. It's just wonderful actually. And it's part of the motivation behind doing these videos too, because I just know that at some point, maybe 6 months down the line, a year down the line, whatever, it'll be nice to have these videos and just reflect on like where I was in certain points in my life. So yeah, and if anyone gets even like a little bit of value or enjoys these on any level at all, like that's just a bonus, And I've already heard from a handful of people that they enjoy these. It's even like for friends too. It's kind of cool that I have these a few different formats that friends can catch up and just get a sense of what's going on in my life. And on top of that, I even have a section on my website, my personal website, GabrielYuribe.me, where we actually publish a short summary using I believe we use 4.0, or actually no, I think we use 4.0 mini for that. Anyways, where we publish summaries of these episodes too, and so you can actually scroll through like all the episodes and then just like click on each one and like get the summary and go to the next one, which is pretty cool. So anyways, I'm just trying to create more ways for people in my life to just get a sense of what's going on and, you know, catch up, and also just have some prompts so that whenever I see them or they just want to send out a text or email, they have something they can just to write in about, or write to me about. Start a conversation. Anyways, that's been going on. So yeah, singing, it's cool to have recordings. I actually, on my website as well, I have a section, an area where for a little while at least, I was posting recordings publicly, like raw recordings of me singing, and I think playing guitar as well, for some of them. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. It's in the description. Again, they're raw, they're a little rough, but it's just something if you're interested what that could look like. And if you think I should do more of that, I'd love a comment about that. And otherwise, I actually I joined a poetry group. I went to my second meeting this week, actually, here in SF. And man, like trying to write poetry after so long. I mean, I've hardly written poetry since high school, if high school. I mean, I probably wrote poetry in high school, I think. But yeah, it's like ringed parts of my brain. Like parts of my brain have squished and squeezed in ways that I haven't felt in a while. But it feels good though. It reminds me of doing this actually, and of like journaling and blogging, that kind of stuff, where it's just another way to express myself and in a new format as well. And I'm kind of liking finding more formats to express myself and ideas. I do notice improvement in those, and as I explore more formats and explore those formats more deeply, I've noticed myself growing in certain ways. So I think the poetry, you know, it feels good to try writing, but also, you know, when you like write a nice line, it just feels great. You know, even if maybe it's not like objectively like a great line, when it's like your line and you wrote it from your own experience, it's just feels good. So I just like singing, you know, I'm excited to be kind of at the very beginning of this new other journey too. So that's just like a fun little personal side quest, I would call it. It's honestly a side quest that has recently started, and I'm grateful to have that opportunity to explore that. There's some very talented poets in that group. Honestly, last night actually, there was one poem that had me at tears. You know, some of them are very emotional and draw on some deeply personal experiences, and so those are honestly inspiring. You know, creating pieces like that you know you can read out in a room full of strangers and you know and create such a reaction, that's powerful stuff. So it truly is inspiring, and you know it's cool because some people in that group like really explore, you know, their own experiences, and they write about them from this like positive, maybe even playful lens, and you can see where they are now too, and it's just you're happy for them, you know, you feel these things for them, and you start to feel it also recontextualizes your own life, and it just gives you a different perspective. So for that, I'm grateful. And that's pretty much it for right now. So yeah, I think that's kind of the theme actually at the moment. I'm just feeling grateful right now. There's a lot that is going well, you know, and to be fair, it is not all roses at all times. I think I have days where it feels darker, you know. Like there are days where it feels like you're kind of chewing glass and things aren't quite going your way. But I try to zoom out a little bit, look at the big picture, and I think as soon as I do that practice and I think about things I have to be grateful for, I realize like, okay, you know, these storm clouds will pass. I will be okay. I will figure things out. You know, I will be resilient. I will keep showing up to the things that I say I'm going to show up for. And I think I have reason to believe that it will work. Things will work out. You know, of course, there's always the risk that I'm delusional. I think there's a big risk of that actually being in a bubble like SF, where you have a lot of founders and you have a lot of people starting companies and starting new things. But I am still trying to manage risks here by, again, taking on client work and ensuring that, we are never at like $0 in revenue. So doing what I can. And there are moments where, some of my sanity is put into question, and moments where I wonder, yeah, like, am I delusional? But I still trust the process. And honestly, I enjoy the process. This isn't about a destination. I'm not trying to get rich from any of this stuff. I honestly, right now, what I love about this whole experience so far is just the fact that I'm growing so much. I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago. I feel a lot more comfortable in my skin, even. I've at this point, I've talked to hundreds of people in SF, new people, and I've just leaned into all that there is to experience here, at least as much as I could. You'll never do it all and see it all, but I view the glass as half full, and I still have, I think, quite a while here before I have to make a decision about whether I stay here long term. I'm still leaning towards yes, because it does have a lot of the energy that I enjoy. People are very optimistic here, and that still continues to be true. And I'm such an optimistic person, and again, to a point, to potentially a fault, where there are moments where I could be delusional, but I enjoy optimism, so that's part of why I enjoy being here. Anyways, thanks for tuning in this week, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.